What's going on, guys? I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Some not so great news to report. Apparently Metazoo has been discontinued. The semi-popular card game, trading card game. During the pandemic time, everyone was getting into trading cards, everyone was getting into streaming, YouTube, Pokemon really was the center of all that attention. But you have all of these trading card games that have gotten way more popular in the last couple of years. You've got Dragon Ball Z, you've got One Piece, you had Metazoo, and a flurry of others, Magic the Gathering, which is going through a rough patch right now as well. But I don't think Magic is going anywhere despite how Hasbro's handling it. But what do I think of all this? I feel bad for everybody that invested in Metazoo. I think we're throwing around invested, but I'm sure a lot of people just bought it because they liked it. And honestly, at the end of the day, as long as they still like those cards, then who cares? They have the cards, it's discontinued. Maybe that's kind of cool in a way. Maybe they'll still appreciate them. Maybe there will still be some kind of market for it, but I'm assuming that when something like that ends and is discontinued, that the market for it just completely falls through. Now, this is a big reason why I have stuck with Pokemon. It's why I wanted to get back into collecting Pokemon. See, I was more of a good old Yu-Gi-Oh boy, right? So for me to get into Pokemon was really for me to get into something that I didn't collect nearly as much as a kid. I collected more Yu-Gi-Oh as a kid, but I never found my Pokemon cards, so it sent me off a deep end and down this rabbit hole where I am now, where I have a massive Pokemon card collection and I am trying to achieve incredible, astonishing Pokemon collection goals that in a lot of ways are probably unhealthy for me financially, and in some ways, mentally, but that's that. I have my goals. I am trying to achieve them and cross things off one at a time, but I have been collecting stuff very rapidly. A lot of high-end cards I've been buying lately, but I like Pokemon because the market is so stable. I like Pokemon because it is so popular. I like Pokemon because the franchise is so strong. I like all of these things that make Pokemon a really good indicator of long-term health and longevity. That's something that I think is a lot harder to see with other card games, Yu-Gi-Oh included. Now, you'd say, Ryan, why are you hating on Yu-Gi-Oh? You love Yu-Gi-Oh. Well, because I have my Yu-Gi-Oh cards from my childhood. That's all I need. I still love it. I can always watch the old anime episodes if I want to feel nostalgic again, because I really liked the TV show more than anything, even though it wasn't at all accurate with the card game. Pokemon came into the picture and I got really heavily into Pokemon. But all this to say that, Metazoo I just saw it as a distraction, really. I just saw it as a distraction. I feel like, there aren't huge crowds of people that got burned in Metazoo going down, but I'm sure there are. I don't watch Metazoo content. I don't know anything about the Metazoo market. I just know that it's fallen through now. I know that the Metazoo card game is over now, and that's a sad thing, and I think a lot of lessons can be learned here. I think people can learn that they need to be really careful with newer card games that are developing. They need to be careful where they're parking their money, and they need to be careful about staying away from, listening to what everybody else is saying and, doing their own due diligence. And I think a lot of people just jumped into it. It was another card game. They didn't do their due diligence. They just thought this is going to go to the moon, just like Pokemon, just like everything else during the last couple of years. But everything is simmering down. Even Pokemon is simmering down. But Pokemon has also become, a lot of the cards that I was really not able to afford have become a little bit affordable, but the market is still staying relatively stable as far as Pokemon goes. But this is important to look at because it does make me think of the other card games. I talked about One Piece recently and how I kind of wanted to get into One Piece, and I think it's a totally different argument with One Piece or Dragon Ball because, Dragon Ball had a really long history with the television series and actually is still making series today. I'm forgetting what the new series that's going to be coming out, a whole new line of Dragon Ball is going to be coming out. I'm forgetting what that's called, but I actually kind of want to rewatch all of the Dragon Ball series and kind of get into the collecting the card game a little bit. They look awesome. I always loved Dragon Ball Z. I always loved the show. I always loved the action figures. I think it's a really cool franchise in general. But then there's also One Piece, and the thing with One Piece is it has a show that's still going on today with 1,200 plus episodes. People really like One Piece. People have had nothing but good things to say about One Piece, and that might not necessarily trickle over into the TCG, but I do think that it does. I think that because it's such a strong show, that the card game could really do no harm. I honestly feel like One Piece, of maybe the alternative card game investments, I think One Piece would be a good one. But all that to say that it's again, it's very unfortunate. Like, I don't think this is one of those things where, people asked me if I was ever going to get into Metazoo, and no, I always said no, not really. But it doesn't mean it's like an I told you so of, I knew this Metazoo wasn't going to be anything special. It was just another distraction. No, I didn't know anything about that. I just knew that it wasn't something I was particularly interested in, that, held my attention. For me, it's definitely Pokemon. Pokemon is, it's a classic at this point. I look over in the corner of my room at my theme decks and my Game Boy games, and there's so much more to Pokemon. There's the show, the games, now there's the Switch now, and there's an endless avenue of things in that franchise that you can dive into, and that's one of the things that makes it so successful. With Metazoo, I don't know what Metazoo had going for it, but I'm not going to come out and say that I knew that Metazoo was going to fall apart. I am unsure of all of the TCGs, honestly, other than Pokemon at this point. I am unsure of all of them, how they'll fare, how they'll do in the long term. Yu-Gi-Oh! Probably has a pretty good shot. Magic probably has a really good shot. These are franchises just like Pokemon that have been around for a long time that might not have as strong of franchises, and I should watch what I say, because there are some, I'm sure, people that watch this that would go, oh, Magic is just, they're having a really tough time with Hasbro right now and how they're being managed, but they're not going anywhere. It could be one of those things where stuff is really cheap right now and no one wants it, and it's a good opportunity. Even Pokemon, I think, is kind of going through what I feel is a little bit of a rough patch for it with Scarlet and Violet era. I think that Pokemon is kind of dropping the ball, not only with their Scarlet and Violet Switch video game, but also this era of trading cards. I think they're dropping the ball a little bit too. And I know people are going to disagree with that probably, and that's okay. We're all entitled to our opinions, but I think, they could do a lot better too. And I think that, when one TCG falls through, it's not exactly a good thing, right? Like, you want several TCGs. You want competition in this market, in this sector. You want, several different players that are doing well. You want there to be something to light the flame under Pokemon's butt, to keep them constantly innovating, making good products, and not getting, too comfortable. In speculative investments, I think it's really tough to think you know what you're doing, myself included. All the money that I've spent on my Pokemon card collection, anything could change. Anything could change. The market could change. The economy could change. Things could go back to how they were a couple years ago in an instant. There's no one that can tell me they know exactly what's going to happen. Now, I do think that Pokemon is going to prevail in the long term. I think that it's so culturally embedded in Japan. I think that, now in the Western Hemisphere as well, that Pokemon's not going anywhere. But I don't like it. I don't find pleasure in seeing other TCGs fail. I don't like the idea of, people believing in trading cards as, a new alternative investment. And I believe in that too. I still believe in it. Just because, things are trending down a little bit, doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of, investing alternatively in Pokemon trading cards in general. So it hurts to see, another one bite the dust. It hurts to see that. And it could be the beginning of things getting tough for trading cards. Maybe things cycling out again. I'm definitely interested to see what everybody thinks about this. It is definitely recent news. It could have happened as recently as today or yesterday. All of a sudden, we're seeing people talking about Metazoo, it being mentioned to me, that it got discontinued. What do I think of that? So I just thought, there's other things I could talk about, other topics, but this is pretty relevant, especially for people that are watching this channel that want to hear about, my strategies and ways that I, buy cards and look at my investment in Pokemon. And, I look at other TCGs too, and I want to see them healthy as well. That's one thing that I love about One Piece, is that it's doing extremely well. I like that. I like to see other TCGs doing well, and that maybe, Pokemon can learn something from that in the long term. That's the kind of thing that I want to see. That makes me happy to see that. It doesn't make me happy to see Metazoo falling apart. Now, while I'm not really into Metazoo and don't know much about it, I have seen a couple of the cards in the past. I think it's pretty cool, honestly. I've got nothing against it. This is not really my cup of tea, but it doesn't mean that, it's not artistic or creative or has value. And it doesn't necessarily mean that just because it's discontinued that the market's ending. Anyways, I think you guys should be careful with putting your money into alternative TCGs, and that's all I got for you. Anyways, and my dogs are barking. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and that's my thoughts on Metazoo. It's tragic. I hate to see it, but that sometimes happens with TCGs. Anyways,